Got a selection of good things on sale for you.
We've been playing Merchants of Karanor by Funky Hat Games, and here's 5 reasons why this game might be one for you.
Hi, I'm Julian and this is Libby. We're on YouTube as Box Meeples. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter.
We've been playing the game Merchants of Karanor by Funky Hat Games. It's a trading game set in a fantasy world, but how do you play?
In Merchants of Karanor, you manage resources and try to develop the most successful business across a fantasy world. You play as a wandering merchant looking for wealth and glory. To do this, you must source local resources from the 7 main cities, interact with the locals, completing the quests they may give you, delivering in-demand goods, and trading with fellow players. Success in business may even allow you to purchase a private villa, boosting your reputation score and inching you to victory. But while your opponents may seem like friendly fellow merchants, you should never turn your back on them. You may be trading fairly and legally, but they might be employing the services of the black market, allowing them to perform devious deeds at the expense of other players. The quests offered by local inhabitants and even your own backstory and homeland will change each game, immersing you in the imaginative world of Karanor. Combined with this, the artifacts you gain and the different associates you hire will force you to adapt your tactics for each game. Business may well be booming in the world of Karanor, but are you the merchant that has the connections and savvy to profit the most?
So that's the game in a nutshell, but what are 5 reasons why you might love this game?
Now, often in trading style games, it's a bit bland. You don't really know who you're playing as or, why you're doing the things you're doing, but there's a real attention to kind of character and backstory in these games.
Yeah, that was one of the elements that really drew me in. To begin with, you each start with a character card which dictates where you're from and some of your character traits. You have a sort of individual starting benefit or things that happen at different times during the game that would be in line with that character, which is great. And the fact that you're starting in these different towns each time gives variability to how you're setting up, and then throughout the game different elements of story are coming in, and having that narrative throughout really is something that I enjoy in the game.
I find that with the type of characters I'm playing, it almost alters my interaction with our players. If I'm playing a rich aristocrat, I shall adopt a more formal voice in which to immerse the people in the game, and it's a lot of fun just kind of investing in that world of Karanor.
Yeah, I once, one of our games, I was playing a bit of a rogue who got extra black market cards throughout the game. So obviously you sort of lean towards that naughty dark side in your gameplay to go along with that character. So another element that leans into the story of this is the encounter cards that you come across. Each time you meet someone on the board, they'll give you like a little challenge to do, a little mission to go on to achieve, which will give you points, obviously, that help you win the game.
With games like this, there's a tendency to be a little bit dry, a bit serious, but this game really doesn't take itself very seriously at all.
It's funny, it's light-hearted, it's not taking itself too seriously, and I really enjoy that. I mean, one of the cards that I came across is the Harbour Master, which made me giggle a little bit, so I read this one to you. The sailor's worst enemy is not the raging storm. It's not the wave that crashes on the deck. It's not the treacherous reef that tears the side of the ship. The sailor's worst enemy is bad rum. And it's little elements like that that just add that little giggle and little lightness, and it draws you into the tale. And in this mission, you're needing to take the sailor some decent rum, and that's going to get you some points. And so doing little things like that throughout the game, I just think is super fun.
So as you might have gathered from the overview, there's different approaches you can take when you're playing Merchants of Karanor. You can just do straight trading, which can ultimately win you the game. You can interact with other players, and that's certainly a good idea on a multiple player count when there's lots of people gathered around the table. There's lots of opportunities to get what you want. Or you can go to the dark side, get as many black market cards as you can and use those at the peril of other players. You're not going to be very popular in the Kingdom of Karanor, but you might be successful.
What I find particularly good about this game in terms of that black market element is that some of the sort of take that style games can feel quite harsh when something bad happens to you. And I know some players don't enjoy that element as much as others. We love it as a two-player. We can always sort of tussle against each other. But for those that are worried about that sort of element of things, I think that this game is actually really well balanced in terms that you're able to trade between yourself in the resources, and that is actually really helpful tool. It almost feels sort of not cooperative, but you're giving each other a helping hand along the way. So then when a black market card comes along, which is a little bit take thatty, that really balances things out, so it doesn't feel like it's too co-op-y or too take thatty. You get a nice fine sort of selection of both in the middle that doesn't upset anyone particularly.
And often with these black market cards, there's a cost for you to do something particularly evil, so it really does balance out through the progression of a kind of normal game.
A great thing about this game, which I think aids to it to be able to be played by a lot of different people, is that it's actually quick to play. We managed to learn the rulebook, set it up and get a game played, our first game, in 2 hours. And I think that's really impressive. It's quite clear in terms of what the actions that you do are. It's quite intuitive, and it's quite fast paced in your movements. And you don't feel like there's a lot of downtime. You're interested in what other players are doing and where they're going. So
often, players are drawn in because there's the trading opportunities, and a good merchant in Karanor will be like, oh, I can't help but notice you need some rum. I've got a copious amount here. Would you be interested in those? And kind of getting that sales pitch all becomes part of the game. What I really like is that no matter really what you do, and you have the different options of different actions you can take on the board, but every single one of them feels like you're advancing, you're achieving something. It's not a case of looking at the board and go, there's nothing I can do that's of any benefit to me. No matter what you do, really, there's a benefit to your points. It might be a long-term benefit. You might go, oh, I may as well pick up some more resources while I'm here, or if I go in that direction, I might be heading towards an encounter that I can grab. But no matter what you do feel like you're achieving something, and that's a really satisfying element to have in a game, particularly for people who are new to kind of these styles of games.
Yeah, and as the game progresses, you're able to do more and more. You've got some friends on board that are handing you things at the end of your turn that you might want. You've picked up some abilities maybe that let you go a little bit faster or take ships with less money and do lots of different things. But I don't feel like those benefits that you're getting along the way, where you're sort of powering yourself up throughout the game, they don't hinder the time that it takes to play your turn, which is great.
Now obviously we played this game with multiple different player counts. It felt really natural and fun at 2 players, but it changed completely when we played with a bigger player count.
Yeah, I think that the way that you go after different encounters in a 2, there's obviously more on the board for you to sort of shimmy about and look at your own little area and get what you want before you're having to then sort of go out and sort of seek the things that other options that you have on the board. Whereas if you have a higher player count, you get through some of those things a lot quicker. People are racing to different areas. So the way that you play and the options that you choose in order to get your victory points along the way varies. And I really love that in a game where it feels you love the game equally, but it feels like a different game to play at different player counts. It gives you a new experience. It adds to that variability, and it just tightens things up, and you have to think about different options.
Yeah, there's less encounters, but there's more people to trade with around the table, so your options are greater because you haven't got to navigate across the board just to get some metal or some wood, because there's probably going to be someone around the table who started that area and already has a copious amount of it. And with a bigger player count particularly, that's where the tactics of the game begin to really shine, because if you know you're going to need a lot of cloth, maybe it's worth grabbing the assistant, the crewman, who's going to give you that cloth at the end of each turn, because then you're going to have a lot of supply, and if you don't need it, you can then offer it to other people, because you're going to be like the cloth king. You're going to have all the cloth that everyone wants. And it does highlight the strategy that's really underneath the surface of this very attractive game. There's a lot to think about that you may not necessarily immediately notice, but after a few plays you'll get to really appreciate.
And one other thing that I think was great was when we have these assistants that are giving you things at the end of each turn, at the point that you know you need it, you know you want it for a specific encounter, at the point that you think, is this helping me that much anymore? Am I ending up hoarding all the cloth and no one else really wants it, what's happening? You can turn it over as an action and then you start getting money, which can do different things, because you can build your little villas in the sun, which are getting you victory points, and you can do different things with it. So that adaptability really shines as well.
And only one person can have a villa in each area, so it does become, towards the end of the game, a real race to kind of get to those big villa opportunities, those point opportunities while you can, because if you don't get there fast, you're not going to get there at all. So that's 5 reasons why we think you're going to love Merchants of Karanor from Funky Hat Games.
If you like the look of this game, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments, what are your thoughts? Do you like these kind of games? If you're finding us here for the first time on YouTube, then please do subscribe to the channel, and maybe even give this video a like, or ring the bell for notifications of all our upcoming board game chat and videos that we have coming up.
So Merchants of Karanor is a fun trading game that's not too dry, not too heavy, but something you'll want to trade for at any price.